Hey, John here. If you've been struggling with fast picking, this exercise could be a real game changer. I know it was for me, so I just wanted to share it with you here. And stick around for this kind of lengthy video because there's a lot of technical pointers here that you can apply to other things as well. So when I started playing guitar and I realized that you could actually practice to get better, this was one of the first exercises that I got into when it came to picking technique that really helped my technique in a significant way, and I could actually see quite a big difference in just a few weeks of practicing. And don't let just a few weeks of practicing turn you off. It really shouldn't, because this takes time, right? And I think a lot of people are very impatient these days and think that it should be some sort of hack or shortcut or whatever. Trying to look for any kind of hack or shortcut is going to bite you in the ass eventually. So just do it right instead and put in the time, and you will feel much better and you will get much better results. So with that said, here's the exercise, and I got this exercise from Vinnie Moore's first video, and he got it from his jazz teachers. There's an old exercise that's been around for a long time, and it's been passed on for a very good reason, because it's a great exercise. And I'm going to show you why and what you should focus on when you do this. So while it might look very simple on the surface, if you really focus on the more important aspects of your technique, you can gain a lot of technique just from this one exercise if you practice it consistently. So I'm also going to tell you how much you should do it as well. So let's get going. All right, so here's the exercise, and I'm going to start here on the 5th fret, but when you actually perform it, you won't start at the 1st fret, but I don't want to sit like this, so I'm just going to show it from the 5th fret. And this is a chromatic picking exercise, and if you've seen this before, please don't shut the video off, because I'm going to show you very important pointers in how you should practice this exercise and what you should look out for to get the most out of it. And these pointers will also be applicable to pretty much anything else you practice when it comes to picking. So the exercise goes like this. So we start on in this case, the 5th fret here, but the important part is that you have one finger per fret. So use all 4 fingers. So I'm going to play ascending like this. And I'm going to shift up to the next fret. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then go back. So what I did here, just shifted up and did the opposite thing. So now you could repeat this in one position like this. But we want to move up a fret each time. So you start like that, right? And as you can see in my right hand is strict alternate picking here, and I suggest that you start doing this with a downstroke initially. So you go down, up, down, up, down, up. So no doubling up on the downstrokes or upstrokes. You want to make sure that every other stroke is a down and every other stroke is an upstroke. And I say you start with a downstroke now because you could also do this the opposite way, which is a good way to practice. But I think if you're new to alternate picking and these kind of exercises, you kind of want to get the very basics down first. So I think starting with a downstroke is sufficient for now. So you don't need to overwhelm yourself with a lot of stuff. So basically we just go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So what you want to look out for first here is that for the shifting, you don't want to have any gaps. You don't want to do this. You want to make sure that it basically sounds like if you play this on piano, for example, you wouldn't have any gaps or sliding sounds or anything like that. It would just be a new note, and that's what you want. So if someone is listening to you play, but they can't see you, they shouldn't be able to hear when you're shifting. You shouldn't be hearing stuff like, sliding around or anything like that. We want to be very strict with the articulation. So and the way to get that in the most consistent manner possible is to practice slowly. And when I say slowly here, you can start at, let's say, 50 or 60 BPMs on a metronome and play 2 notes per beat first. So you're basically gonna go around this tempo. And you want to make sure that your foot is on the beat the whole time. So you go like this. Click, 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 click. So you want to make sure that you sync up the downstroke with the down of the foot and the upstroke with up with the foot. And this is very important, so you can really start building this habit of having your foot going when you practice something and having your foot going on a steady beat and not start to sort of tap along with whatever you're playing. You want the foot to basically hold down the downbeat, and then you can play whatever rhythms you want on top. Because if you can have this down the whole time, you always know where you are rhythmically. And that goes, that's a very important part of playing in general, but also for the technique. It's basically all timing based. If you think about it here, when I play this, to get the articulation that I want, I need to make sure that I don't get any flams. And a flam, in the drum world, a flam would be this. I'm hitting two hands at the same time, but I'm a bit early with one or late with one, however you want to see it. So you get this type of effect. And you don't want that when it comes to alternate picking, because basically it sounds really bad, because you get this sort of effect. You know, that kind of effect where nothing sounds really clear. So what we're listening for here is one very strong, I'm not saying loud, but very strong and clear note. So no flams. And if you can focus on that while you do this exercise, and also when you practice it in the way that I'm going to show you, if you do that every day as a warm-up and as a little technique workout before you start practicing whatever you want to practice that day, you're going to see within a few weeks that this really helps your overall technique. So it goes way beyond just, you know, playing this exercise. And it's not really about getting this exercise up to any type of speed either. This exercise is just here for you to focus on these crucial aspects of the picking technique, namely the synchronization, so you really get that flamless attack, but also making sure you can do the shifting without hearing anything weird going on. So a lot of this comes down to listening. So you really need to be listening to what you're doing when you practice. And I would suggest that if you practice with distortion, practice with a distortion that you like, but make sure you have the bridge pickup when you do it, because it will be way easier to hear if you do anything incorrectly. And if you prefer playing with the neck pickup when you solo, then it will just sound that much better. So you should not try to, you know, cover up mistakes by using this pickup when you practice. Instead, when you practice, you want to make sure that you can hear as clearly as possible what your playing actually sounds like. Here's a few examples of some licks you can find on my Patreon. If you're interested in that and want the tabs and the full explanation and lesson for these, you can find a link in the description below. Now, another thing I want to cover here is that when I play this, I don't keep my fingers down. Instead, it's like playing a piano. I make sure that I get an attack in the left hand. And that makes it way easier as well with the timing. And with the timing is better, your overall synchronization will get better. Because it will be way easier to synchronize the two hands when you do this. And when you do the slide here, or it's not a slide, it's a position shift, right? So make sure that you keep this finger down. So you don't want to do this. I've seen some of my students do this, and they sort of lift it before, and then it's going to be impossible to get a smooth connection. So you just want to keep this one down, and same thing when you go back. Oops. Same thing here, keep it down. But other than that, make sure that you move to the next finger so you get that attack. And this shift, that counts as an attack for your brain in this case, because it's something new is happening on each pick stroke. So that's very important, because if you keep the fingers down like this, you might feel like, oh, I'm saving time and I'm being more efficient, but it becomes quite weird for the brain when you go back here, because when you lift the pinky so you can play the third finger, and then you lift the third finger so you can play the second finger, so you're kind of always one finger removed from whatever note you're picking, and that can become quite confusing for your brain. So if you instead do this, right, so you see I lift the pinky anyway, because I have to do that, but also I push down the third finger in the exact time that I need to. And if you keep doing that, and do that consistently, that will build a really good articulation and synchronization. So all the synchronization stuff is really paying attention to details when you practice. So that's why I'm very meticulous here when I go through it, because if you just take this exercise and just do whatever, it's not going to do anything for your playing. It might even hurt your playing. So you want to make sure that whenever you practice, and this is very important, when you practice something, be really hard on yourself. Play as slow as you absolutely need to. Tempo doesn't matter in this case. You just want to make sure that everything is fully controlled and everything is sounding the way that you want it to sound. But then when you play, don't worry about it. Just play, and then whatever happens, happens, because it's in the practice room when we do these type of exercises, that's where you build your technique. And then when you play, you should just forget about it, and then hopefully you'll see that your playing technique gets better and better, and that will inspire you to work even more on your actual practice here. And it becomes this really good sort of flywheel of practice, where you find that you just get better and better. Even things that you're not necessarily practicing gets better just because you're doing certain exercises. And that's what happens, because everything is connected here. So you might be improving something here, and you might think like, well, when am I going to use that in a solo or whatever. But it's not about that. It's about what working on this technique will give you in your actual playing. So if you haven't done exercises like these before, I think the effect will be even more pronounced. So hopefully you understand what I'm saying here, but don't take my word for it. Instead, make sure to practice the little routine here that I have laid out for you. And I'm gonna go through that now, and it's very simple. You simply start at the first fret, and you go all the way up on your fretboard. So however many frets you have, that's how many you have. And then you go all the way back again. And you do that on each string once a day. So basically, if I start down here, and I'm really listening here, so I don't want any type of flams. Just go up the whole fretboard. And as you can see, my fingers, I get that attack. I don't hold them down. And this also helps me with relaxation, because the more fingers you have down in the fretboard, the harder it's going to be to relax your fingers, and the harder it's going to be to shift as well. So once I reach the top of my fretboard, I just restart and go back down. So, and like I said, you want to have your foot on the click. So click, click, 2 notes per beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on, all the way down here. Then you're done with the E string. Now you can, have a short break, play some licks that you like. And then you restart on the B string, do the same thing, first fret. Go up all the way and all the way back, and then you do the same thing on all 6 strings. So if you do that, I can promise you that your technique will get better. And I said weeks here, but you will feel within just a few days of doing this consistently. And if you stick to the actual, the technique pointers here, because again, if you do this and do it sloppily, you won't get anything out of it. It might even hurt your playing, but if you actually stick to all these technique pointers, really listen to what you're doing, you're gonna get a lot of technique out of this one. So it might be a simple exercise on the surface, but it's not about, you know, having super tricky things to practice to get, you know, to get your technique to the next level. It's about what you do with any one exercise. So that's very important to understand, that these basics aren't very sexy, but they really help. And just the fact that it is so easy to understand, that's also the thing that makes it easier for you to listen to what matters, meaning what everything sounds like, that you don't get any type of flams, that you can stay relaxed and all that stuff. So a final thing I want to say about this is that don't even think about the tempo. So this is not an exercise that you're gonna bump up the tempo week by week and then, you know, 62 weeks from now you're just gonna be flying through it. That's not the point, because if you focus on the technique the whole time and really focus on these transitions, the fast transitions. I actually have a video that I'm gonna link at the end of this one where you can check that out, where I talk about transition time, and that should really be applied to this one as well. Because that's a game changer when it comes to getting your synchronization together. So I'm also talking to you who think that, well, you know, I've been playing for a while, I'm well past this stuff. This is a basic thing on the instrument, but it's also a fundamental thing on the instrument. So the better you can play this, the better you will be able to play anything on the instrument. And I use this myself. This pops up once in a while. I won't say that I do it every day anymore, but especially if I've been away on vacation or anything like that, when I couldn't been playing, I basically use this to pull myself back into good habits, because it's such a easy thing to practice, but it also makes it so easy to focus on the important parts when it comes to picking. So instead of trying to find the hardest string crossing exercise, I go straight to this stuff, because I know that the better my single string picking is, the better my, you know, cross picking will be as well. So I think it's important to not neglect the fundamentals just because you think you're, you know, above that, because none of us are. So give this a try and let me know in the comments below if you like these kind of more fundamental exercises and, you know, my history with them. Again, I said that I was going to link to that transition time video, so you have that up here, and check that one out as well. And any questions at all, just post them below.